notice something about Stephen Silvani that pretty much when he leaves from one club to another, the next couple of years, like players follow him like some kind of list management Pied Piper. Like he was at the Giants, then he went to Carlton. We see this exodus of Giants becoming Blues. And now he's at St Kilda. We see De Koning. We see his son heading to them. It's this weird, you just follow your favourites, don't you? And I feel like we're seeing something similar between Richmond and West Coast. A number of player movements over the last 12 months through trade and free agency. Liam Baker, Jack Graham, and now Tyler Young has just landed at the West Coast Eagles. We know there's some Richmond connections behind the scenes and certainly from a senior coaching perspective. But from an AFL trade perspective, does this help the Eagles at all? Do the Tigers get some of that youthful development stunted with this trade? And from a fantasy footy perspective, is there some gold in this trade that we need to extract and help us for the upcoming 2026 fantasy footy season? We didn't see much of Tyler this year, and in fact, he's had a little bit of a stop-start career. A combination of that is due to some competition for spots, but also an injury that really ruled him out for a big chunk of time as well. He's developed his craft nicely through the VFL, and while limited game time at the Tigers, it's safe to say, he's shown he's a really solid to handy key position defender. Really good body positioning, knows how to read the ball well in flight, really good at restricting opposition key forwards from getting easy looks at the ball, and did, at least at Richmond anyway, have some pretty good synergy between the distributors inside that defensive 50 unit. And so if we look at what this means for Richmond, I talk about, the real potential upside here on Tyler. I don't think as much as there's some nice stuff about what Young offers, I think based on where this list build is at for Richmond, they're kind of okay to let him go. Again, it's another draft capital piece that they can either on sell to get up higher up the board if they want to do some packaging up, use it to redeploy back into future draft years, or just take something that might slide a little bit later in on the draft based on where this pick currently sits for them. But I look at this Richmond key position and just the defensive positioning in its entirety. I feel like there's some solidness about this defensive group that's going to stick around for a long period of time. Like Banks really emerged this year. I know he's not a key position defender, but if we're just talking about Richmond redeveloping into this future over the next 3 to 5 years, he is the incarnation of Jaden Short that's going to become that dash, run, carry, playmaker that's really going to see this next group of Tiger Cubs emerge into the next era. So I feel like they've got that piece pretty solid already. If Josh Gibcus could get some luck with his body, my goodness me, he has all the traits to be one of the more elite tall defenders in the game, not only from a lockdown perspective, but also from an intercept point of view as well. There's some beautiful moments that if we could just get some health back into this kid, my goodness me, you could see exactly why Richmond behind the scenes are so bullish about this rebuild, not just because they've got access to the likes of Law and a couple of throws at the stumps early in this year's draft too. But this kid could be a superstar tall defender. Then you throw in a Luke Trainer, who if you played fantasy footy this year was one of the defenders we just loved owning as a cash cow. Reads the ball well, intercepts well, knows how to get into space, and again, can play the defensive traits. And that's just the kids. Let alone you've got the likes of a Bolter. Nick Vlaston's had arguably a career year just gone. Bolter's shown some moments. Now, and Ben Miller's more than handy. So they've got enough guys that are both emerging for the future, but also can hold the pattern between now and when that future becomes. So yeah, they probably would have preferred to keep Young, but from a reality perspective, I feel like they've got enough pieces that are still pretty handy that's going to help them through. I don't think that's too much of a fuss for Richmond. Just personally, I think they're, happy. They'd prefer to keep him, but it's fine. He can move. From a West Coast Eagles perspective, how big of a move is this for what they've landed? Well, they've clearly targeted a part of their team structure that they need to improve. And a combination of both he, as in Tyler, and Brandon Starcevich coming into this team, I think immediately just makes them so much harder to score against. I know they've had at times McGovern back there, Barras before he got traded 12 months ago, and Cole's doing a fine job, but they've just not really been able to prevent opposition teams from scoring pretty easily, let alone consistently against them. I feel like with the arrival of Young, you could kind of anchor him down as that stop the monster type player. Then you've got a Cole who can play some defensive moments. Jinby, I really liked what I saw from him last year, but he had to play a lot taller and a lot more physical through the air than what I think they would prefer. And now between Young, these other two nice supporting pieces, and Brandon Starcevic, who I think is one of the best lockdown small to medium defenders going around in the league, all of a sudden now it starts to look all right. And then the supporting cast, the Hoff, the Duggan, the Baker, the McCarthy, well, whoever's playing those kind of playmaker roles off half back through the wings, now it's starting to take some shape of not just being able to negate and stop opposition teams from scoring easily against them, but now players can play a bit more to their strengths and actually get that ball out of D50 as well. Now, I think West Coast, between Young and Starcevic combined, taking a really nice step forward to being able to kind of negate the scoring opportunities against them and ultimately less goals that they've got to hit, which is still a growth area for them. And that will come over the next couple of years. From an AFL Fantasy and a SuperCoach perspective, he's coming off the back of a low 70s average just this last year, 58 in AFL Fantasy. And if he was priced as a rookie, these are exactly the suite of spaces we want to be, but it's just not the reality. So for me, I'd probably pass off. So what do you think? What's your summary here? Is this good news, bad news for the Eagles? Good news, bad news for the Tigers? We'd love you to know. Why don't you comment below? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section about what you think this trade move means for all clubs involved. And am I wrong? Is there some fantasy relevance here? Because I'm not too sure there's going to be too much for us in Classic. And even late on draft, I feel like there's going to be some better buys. Why don't you let me know your thoughts and reflections about Tyler's trade? And we'll be back again with you real soon for another player trade and someone that's moved clubs this AFL offseason.